building a business is hard, right? Building a successful business is hard. Setting up a PTY Ltd is super easy. And this is the double-edged sword in which we live in. It's never been so easy to build a business, but it's also never been so hard to build a business. And what's happening is in the speed in which we're living in right now, where anyone can go and sign up to a ClickFunnels or a drag and drop website builder, they can build a funnel, they can put a product up there, or they can sell a course or something and immediately call it a business, and then a couple of months in or a month in realize they're not getting the sales that they really need to make the money that they want, and then they're stuck, right? It's because you haven't really built a business. You've built a few pillars of something that could potentially become a business. And again, this is rewiring the way in which we're looking at how we're approaching this. And any business owner, right, looks through the lens as a business owner. Well, they should, in my view. And that is, you got to look at finance, you got to look at marketing, you got to look at sales, you got to look at product, you got to look at team culture, right? That's the view in which business owners, whether it's you by yourself, whether you're a solopreneur right now, or you got one or two team members, you still need to be looking through the prism of that, right? And when you do look through the prism of the business in those different key areas, you will identify that marketing is one part of that. And this ties back into another lesson I was talking about in the previous episode, is finding the who, not how, right? Find your who, not your how. Which is, don't sit there and go, how do I market or how do I figure this out? You need to find the who, the people who know how to do it. So I wish, well, no, I don't wish, but I'm probably a very different person when it comes to this, because I was the guy who sat there and learned how to do BAS returns and my tax returns. I don't know why, because I just always had this, I should know how to do it. Silly, stupid move, right? Punch myself in the nose if I went back to that time period.
Oh, it's good if you need to go to sleep.
Yeah, but case in point is, business owners aren't out there doing their own tax returns. There's a reason, because there's accountants. You shouldn't be out there doing your own marketing. You shouldn't be out there, doing any part of your business if you're not the right person or you don't have the right people in there to be able to do it, right? So for me, 2020 has been the ultimate reset, right? Because we'll wrap up 2020 here with our final thoughts on what we've sort of taken away, and let's sort of jump into some 2021 predictions. 2020 has been the ultimate reset for businesses. Their ability to actually look at their business for what it really is, right? And decide, one, do I want to stay in this industry? Do I still want to keep flogging this bloody product when it clearly isn't working? Or do I need to just get out of here and go and do something different, right? So the ultimate reset, which now that that's happened, it's their personal responsibility to start acting like business owners and start learning how to be a business owner and start making business owner decisions, right? So that's my biggest, I guess, takeaway from the 2020 environment and how it sort of trickles down and affects, the digital growth, the outcome and output that we get from a results perspective.
Well, I think it was good, like you said before, it all comes back to the fundamentals. The fundamentals haven't changed. And, this will probably lead into the chat about 2021 and things like that. But if you don't have your business fundamentals right, and that goes into your product, your team, your marketing message, your brand, and having that understanding, going digital is great. And a lot of people can get started with that. And you may have experienced this if you're a business owner during COVID. You may have experienced extreme growth during this period because you have pivoted and you have done something good. But that's probably not the fundamentals of your core business. You've probably created something new, you've reacted to the marketplace, and you've done very, very well. And then what's going to happen next year is we're going to come out of this kind of weird time.
Is what you've created sustainable?
That's right. Is it sustainable? Right. And is it something that you can bring in to be a core part of your business that you can then grow from? Because you want to be careful of, like you said, going digital, having an incredible campaign, and then not knowing where to go from there.
What are some of the takeaways for 2020 at a creative level? So jumping back into your creative director role and seeing some of the things that we've done or might have changed or tested and tried. What was some? And there's no exact finite
I've got
factual
a few,
outcome, but what were some of the things?
I've got a few things that were, that we hadn't necessarily experienced in the same volume, especially from a Facebook perspective, but disapprovals were a big one. So for people who are running Facebook ads, you'll know that you do have some, guidelines to follow in terms of what you can and can't do. Facebook decided pretty early on that they were going to disapprove anything that was seen to be taking advantage of a pandemic and things like that. So that was something that we hadn't necessarily had to deal with before. So there was a lot of disapprovals that we had to work around and be creative with. And this is where if you are running ads yourself, you probably would have gotten very, very frustrated very, very quickly because you're going, oh, well, why can't I sell hand sanitizer when it's the perfect opportunity to do so?
Yeah.
And, we had clients who did do that as well. And there were people who did it. But then this is where you got to look at it as, your business as a whole. Is digital's not the only channel, and Facebook's not the only channel in digital that you could be doing that from. It's not to say, oh no, my ad got disapproved, I should not do this product, because a lot of people made a lot of money from selling hand sanitizer during that period as well. So disapprovals was a big one, restrictions around what we could do. But I would also just say, there's never been a period of digital marketing where everyone has been flogging the same message so consistently across every single industry. So the requirement to be original during the time to stand out and not pay too much for your spend was more important than ever. So, to have a team of creatives behind you who are coming up with original ideas, who are seeing what's working and what's out there in the marketplace and being able to adapt to that rather than just being like, oh, these unprecedented times, well, everyone needs to take action and get insurance.
You become numb to the repetition of things.
You do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the wallpaper comes to the surface as well. If you don't have that, you're like everybody else, in which case, what's your ability to differentiate yourself? Now, early on in the pandemic, what we actually saw is everybody was going home. So there was a rise of media consumption, which of course gave birth to a whole heap more opportunities to put an advert in front of somebody, naturally. And at the same time that was occurring, there was a whole bunch of advertisers withdrawing spend, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. As we saw advertising come back into the mix, we saw competition go up. So if you're trying to go back into market, rising media costs, rising auction costs due to increased competition, and if you're looking and behaving like any number of different competitors in a category, it's naive. It's really naive to think that you're going to have different results to anybody else or to even do better.
And that comes back to the expectations, right? I'm glad you brought that up because that's such a big one. It's like you go into the supermarket and all of a sudden bananas are $3 a kilo and you go there next week and they're $8 a kilo. You're like, what the heck? How does that happen?
Yep.
But we have become susceptible to realize that could be an outcome because the market fluctuates. Business owners don't, majority of business, and I hate speaking these vagary terms, but majority of business owners don't understand that these paid platforms are like the trademark, like the stock market, right? It could be $3 bananas today, $8 bananas next week. Your ad, you might get $4.
Horrifyingly, you might get be a $50 banana.
Yeah, you might get $4 leads this week, and then next week they're $13. You're like, oh my God, why is this not working? And if you ever come to an agency and you go, oh, but I used to get this. It's like, yeah, but you're not anymore, are you? Or else you'd be still doing it. Because I used to get 20-cent leads back in 2008. But I ain't getting nothing like that anymore. But the case in point there is expectation and understanding, and this probably comes back to the, if you're working with an agency, their responsibility to showcase the marketplace in which you're working within and set those expectations and guidelines. Because, hey, if you're a business owner, you're coming in there, you're not expecting fluctuating costs of leads and costs per impressions and all of that. You're like, I just want my result. I get it. But if you're someone, you're trying to do this stuff yourself and it worked last week, now it's not, and then you're freaking out, it's like, the reality is that's what it's like when you're building an actual business, right? So wrapping up from a what are a couple other things, if you've got anything, don't feel like you have to, but that we can sort of take away from 2020? What sort of things really stood out to us in 2020 at a digital growth lens?
I just think the understanding around adaptation is the big one for me on all levels. That's the biggest thing that sort of comes at it. If you wanted a thematic 2020, I think that's probably the easiest way of doing so.
Which ties back into this importance of omni-channel, right? So you talked about it, Jake. It's like, yeah, your Facebook might not be working. So, well, is Facebook the only place that you're hanging out, right? It's like maybe it's Google, maybe it's LinkedIn, maybe it's Pinterest, Snapchat, TikTok. That's the best place for you to be hanging out, and that's the ability to be able to essentially be everywhere all the time.
Well, we've had very real instances of clients this year, or new clients to us in actual fact, and the reason why they've come to us is because what they've had over the life of their business to date is a reliance on a single channel providing the bulk of their leads. And then through some of the forces that Jake touched on, that disappeared overnight. And what that does to cash flow and lead certainty in some specific instances have catastrophic impacts on businesses. And so, you know, sometimes that's a very hard train to move from when it's all going well, but the requirement or the understanding that you cannot have all eggs in one basket. You need to diversify, and you need to continue to have a look at your mix and make sure that that's still serving the interests and needs of your business.
And these are all things that, you know, it's not just marketing. It's classic investment philosophy. Like, you're not going to put all your eggs into, you know, a single property and then hope that thing makes you rich. You know, like, you're going to diversify your portfolio, and it's the exact same thing. Marketing is an investment. It's an investment in your business. Doing different creatives and production is an investment in assets that you can utilize. And, you know, from a creative perspective, from my point, people invest in the content that we produce, but many people don't use it on multiple platforms. They go, oh, well, this is my Facebook ad, and if it doesn't necessarily work on Facebook, it doesn't work.